Informatics is sort of the theme that I'm going to talk about here. We serve a highly regulated industry. The name of the company is Covance. We are the largest publicly traded contract research organization. We don't own drugs. We help develop drugs on behalf of the clients we serve, which is the pharmaceutical industry. And what you can see, it's kind of unique about us. There's a number of facts here. Most notably, about 2/3 of our revenue comes from laboratory services. I'm going to talk about an idea that we had in one of our laboratories, which was driven at first by an internal need we had, and then we turned it around and used informatics to make it an external source of value for us. So the internal need we had in our central laboratory provides support for clinical trials. When a clinical trial is ongoing, you go to a doctor's office, they take blood, they take urine, other things, and they send it in for analysis. That has to be done under a very sophisticated set of tests. Well, for us, when the kit arrives at our lab, that's a revenue item. So I want to know how many kits we expect to get next week. When we looked at this internally, it was very erratic. It was highly volatile. And so we tried to put together a better model for kit receipts. As we did that, we realized the secret to it was to understand what was going on at the individual sites that were conducting the trials. And so we started to develop algorithms, sophisticated models, that looked at site performance. And the aha moment for us came around when we said, hey, wait a minute. We can take that same information and then use predictions of how sites will perform the next time there's a trial, and actually inform how to do trials faster, more effectively. So the aha moment for us was taking an internal need, turning it around to say we can make predictions based upon all the analytics we have. We serve the industry in a number of ways, both preclinical and clinical. And honestly, with all respect to my friend here from Pfizer, the industry we serve is essentially broken. The business model that this industry has had for decades has been a vertically integrated model. And they have largely, in the last decade in particular, failed to develop enough new molecules to replace those that were going off patent. And now they're facing substantial cliffs in terms of the number of drugs that are coming off patent and increased regulatory pressures. They're under a tremendous amount of pressure externally from the owners of the company and internally to change their business model, to go out from being vertically integrated to focus on what they really do best and to use other providers to help them be more nimble, to be faster, and develop drugs better. Only 3 out of every 10 drugs ever that come to market, only 3 of them ever really make back all the cost that was put into the drugs to begin with. And it costs roughly $1 billion per marketed drug. If you take all the failures and add up all the failures and the cost of capital, it's $1 billion, maybe even more, for a drug to get developed. So there's a real need to improve the efficiency. And what's striking is if you look at the process, it's amazingly inefficient in a few areas. For example, in our central laboratory, we serve roughly 1/3 of all the clinical trials that are done in the world. 1/3, by far the biggest provider of that service. And what we find is half the time, the sites that are doing the trials get 0 or 1 patient. 0 or 1. It's useless. Imagine the value you could have if you could do a better job of getting those sites to perform. It's thousands and thousands of dollars get put into making these sites effective. And yet, half the time, the sites fail. So what did we do? We have a number of different ways we've applied informatics. The one I want to talk about is what we're calling Accelerate, and it's using the central lab data to help make better predictions about what's going on at the site and help inform how to set up trials to be more effective in the future and avoid waste. It involves both our own internal data, which is on the right-hand side here, a large number of data sets from a number of protocols, investigators. We know where all the investigators in the world are who do clinical trials, how they perform by therapeutic area, by geography, how they were in the past, why they failed. We can use that information to help make better decisions about who to use. We can also combine our information with other public data. This is the advantage of informatics. You can integrate multiple databases and make powerful, insightful predictions about performance and understanding what's happening in the world around you. So we have through this a very large, what we call a knowledge base, which helps us make those predictions. And by doing that, this sort of part in the middle, the Accelerate, is really a bunch of sophisticated, highly sophisticated algorithms that help us make better informed decisions about things like where should you be doing your study? How fast will the sites come up and perform? And this can be extended to things that are beyond just the site, but also resources that will be going to support the trial. How will the trial perform? How many people do you need in case report form monitors? How many people do you need going out there doing the analysis of the sites? How much production do you have to have of this study drug? Imagine if half the time you're sending drugs out to a site and they never get a patient in it. Imagine the waste that comes in. And some of these drugs are very, very expensive to produce in a clinical trial batch. If you can reduce that, just the savings on the drug production is immense. So, as I mentioned, the aha moment was the realization that we could use our historical data and external data, combine them, and make predictions. And we built it on that, and we've been able to do a number of turns of the crank, if you will, to improve the efficiency of this over time. It's not anywhere near done, but we are starting to build sophisticated models by country, by therapeutic area. So here's an example. These are our enrollment curves. Enrollment curves tell you how many patients are in a trial cumulatively over time. And you can see if you look at the up top left here, that's the United States, it's pretty stable. It's not that much volatility, whereas if you go to the top right, you're in Brazil, a lot of volatility in terms of how you can expect drug trials to perform based on therapeutic area. So if you apply this and you know where the trials are going to perform, and you know the particular drugs you want to develop and the competing drugs that are out there competing for patients to go into trials, you can start to be pretty smart about what you're doing. If you're doing an osteoarthritis drug in the United States, you're going to go up against a whole bunch of clinics that are basically fully consumed with other drugs or don't have enough patients to even enroll you. So you'll be way behind in terms of trying to get your drug to market. You're much better off going to locations where the investigative sites are not as congested. And this is true for a bunch of different therapeutic areas. You can make better informed decisions about where to do your trials if you know how the sites are doing and you know what other drugs are in the marketplace. So we're able to forecast now, with this Accelerate product, every single trial that we're on, how the trials are performing. We're making predictions. We have plus minus 5%, plus minus 25%. And then you can turn that into, gee, now that I know that, how many people do I need to have in Europe looking at trials? Not only for us, if we're doing the trial management for you, but if we're just doing the lab work for you and you're Pfizer or some other company that has a trial and you have to manage your own people, we can help you balance the supply and demand of your own people. That's an expensive resource. We can help optimize basically an entire portfolio of work for you and help you make better informed economic decisions. And so this is the balancing the human resources part of the equation. For us, this is sort of not only an aha moment, it's potentially a transformation of our company from being more than just a service provider to being a knowledge provider, to being an information provider, and to thinking about how we can take this information and improve it. So some of the basic underlying blocking and tackling that we have to do an even better job here are around master data management. How do we make sure the data we have conforms to certain criteria and use it and reuse it? How do we enhance some of the predictive methodologies we have in place and the simulation capabilities to make the value of our services even higher? And improving the operational metrics so we can compare ourselves with others in the industry and also correct where we're not quite as good as maybe our own advertising would think we are. So we're eager to work with external parties on this. We're going to work with HCL, we're going to work with TIBCO and the Spotfire product, and there's others, because we believe that information is going to be an important part of making drug development much more efficient. If we can do that, we'll save billions of dollars. We'll help bring drugs to market faster and save lives. So we're pretty excited, pretty fired up about that. Okay, thank you.